Hello, thank you, and welcome to Covenant Calendar Club. We're so glad that you're here for this presentation of the moon, part 7. We pray that you will be richly blessed by the information that you're about to receive and that you would have insight and the ability to apply it for the glory of Yahuwah. Amen. Let's give a big warm shout out, everybody, to those watching on YouTube. Let's say it. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Glad you're here. Okay.
Hi.
And with that, we're just going to go ahead and turn the screen over to Tim and Charlene. Take it away, guys.
Okay. All right. We're going to be working on part 7 tonight of The Moon, Oh the Moon. And we're going to start off with a little bit of something different. I believe that Mario, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so Mario had put in the announcement this week, the little moon cheat sheet, and I thought this was a good time to go over that so that if you're downloading that and putting it as a bookmark into your Bible, that you'll know exactly how the numbers work. So we've added some slides to help you understand that. And we're going to be doing a little bit on computer study tools because there might be some discrepancies that you see, so I want to point those out. So let's get started with that. These are 3 popular study tools for looking into the scriptures, eSword, the Blue Letter Bible, and the one that I'm using is the PC Study Bible. I've used this one for years, but it's a program you have to purchase. So most people are using the eSword and the Blue Letter Bible because they are free, right, Tim?
Yes.
And they are actually pretty good sources. So tonight, this short lesson is going to demonstrate some points of interest, I hope, between these 3 popular study tools for the calendar study. And these are the 3 that I think are at least eSword and Blue Letter Bible, Tim. I haven't really heard of anybody else using something different, but there could be. But we're going to look at these 3 tonight. And we're going to look and see if these study tools actually agree with each other. And I hope that this little lesson is, I don't know, 15 or 18 slides or something. I hope that helps you to understand if you're using a different study tool that you have something to watch for. So this is the bookmark that was sent out, and it is a little on the ancient side, so we will probably update this. But this is what it looks like. And for this moon study sheet, it's a tool to understand and remember the basics of the whole moon study. It's just designed to be something easy maybe to prompt your memory. Now, these listings that we have here on this bookmark, we're going to go through them in detail, are from my study program. It's called a PC Bible Study Program. And there is some explanation that is necessary so that each one of you will know how to use this bookmark efficiently according to what I've used, but then you can also apply it to the study tools that you use. So we're going to examine several areas on this particular cheat sheet, is what I call it. This is going to be number 1. We have a total here on the left-hand side that says 52 moon references in the Strongs. Over here it says 54. I want to be able to show you why those are 2 different totals. And then this part here that is in the red box or the pink box is going to be an answer to the solution. So these 2 are going to work together in this presentation. Then the second, these look like kind of discrepancies. I'm going to call them discrepancies, but they're really not. This is the second part that we're going to look at with the 3391 Yarak. And that is going to work together with this number down here, this 274, that is talking about months. Okay? So we're going to do this step by step, and I hope that it's clear for everybody. Possible discrepancy number 1 on this bookmark study. Here's the question. When searching the Strongs for moons or moon, there are a total of 52 references that I found. In my particular study program, it researches either by the Strong's word, or I can search by the Englishman's word number. So In the Strongs, I'm searching by the word moon or moons. In the Englishman's, it searches by the Hebrew word number. I might be saying that a little bit later on, but just to get you started. Number 2, when searching Englishman's for moon Hebrew word numbers, there's a total of 54. Okay, so that looks like there's a discrepancy. Why are these numbers different? We want to show you why they're different on this little cheat sheet. So let's solve discrepancy number 1. In the Strongs, 7720 or Saharan has one listing with the word moon in it, and that's in Isaiah 31:18. When you search in the Englishman's Concordance, which would be another book on your shelf if you actually had the book, and you put in the number 7720, there are 2 other references that you will find that are similes for the word moon, and I have those listed in Judges 8:21 and 8:26. And so that makes a total of 3. That increases your total for the Englishman's from 52 to 54 because those other 2 references are referring to the moon. Does that sound clear? If there's any questions, we can take them later. Okay, so possible discrepancy number 2. Let's look at this one. In the Strongs, 3391, and the Hebrew is, how do you pronounce it?
Yorach.
Yorach. It has 2 listings for moon, and I have them here, 2 listings. Okay, that's your lunation cycle. But when we looked into the Englishman's side of things in 3391, it has 11 other references that you will find 3391, but 11 of those references are using the word month or months. So that's why you will have 13 here instead of 2, because it's telling you that those extra 11 months have that same number, 3391. So that's why you have 13 matches there. That looks like a discrepancy, but that's because it gets separated out. Now, number 3, how does this affect the final total given as 274 months? And I probably could have left that off of this cheat sheet, and maybe when we redo it, we'll do that. But I want to show you how this works. And it uses a little bit of math. Okay, I've labeled these as 2A so that you can follow my comments here, 2A with 2A. In the Strongs, 2320, which is
Kodesh.
Kodesh, it has 20 listings that will use either the word moon or moons. When you put moon or moons into my Strong's Concordance, it comes up with 20 listings or 20 verses. Okay? When I searched in the Englishman's for 2320, in my program, it came up with 283 listings. Now, that was for the word moon, moons, month, months, monthly, and there's one other word, and I actually found out what it was, Tim. It's the word another. Another. Because it's talking about from one month to another, or one moon to another, okay, in Isaiah. So that number, that is in there too. If you remove 20 moon matches, if you take 20 away from this 283, you're going to be left with 263, right? So we subtract out those 20 moon ones, and we're going to be left with 263 hits or matches that say months, okay? Then we need to come back up here to this 3391. It has 11 matches that were for the month and not for the moon. So we're going to add those 11 up there from 3391 to the 263, and that's going to bring our total to 274. Is that math or what? Is that crazy math? But anyway, that's how that works on the cheat sheet, because you might not have figured out what I was doing there. But I wanted to show you what was happening there before I go in to show you what's happening between the different study tools. And it's really good to build charts with Bible study tools. So this bookmark was designed using my PC study Bible, okay? But you can design one with your own, right? There is one more area in the Moon Study bookmark that might appear as another discrepancy for those that are using either eSword or Blue Letter Bible study tools. So I want to show what that is. And if we're using a different study tool than these two, you'd have to go and check it out and see what's happening there. Okay, so I'm calling this bookmark discrepancy number 3 because this is the number right here, 283, that one of our calendar people was wondering about because on their study tool, they were not coming up with this number of 283. Well, the number in question is 283. 283 listings for 2320. And it's good to be here to have this good Hebrew. So the question is, will eSword and the Blue Letter Study Bible agree with the PC Bible study tool that I'm using? We want to see about that. And is there something important that we can learn from this exercise when we're using different Bible study tools? And by the way, we didn't know about this until that question came up, right, Tim? Right. And that was just a couple of weeks ago. And we're going to ask a question about Strong's. Will the different Bible study tools represent the work of Mr. Strong as it's found in his book that would be on the shelf? This was something that we learned as well that we didn't know. And we're saying, should they or shouldn't they, right? We want to find out. Okay, so we're going to do a comparison of these 3 study tools. Is everybody okay so far? Yep. Okay, because we're going to come up to slide 32 and I'm going to be asking for audience participation. So I have set this up so that you can only see part of this at a time because I can't animate a table. But anyway, we're searching for moon and moons. In eSword, it sorted it out like this. There was 41 verses and 41 hits for the word moon, and there was 11 verses and 11 hits or 11 matches in eSword. In the Blue Letter Bible, I had exactly the same numbers. So I thought that's pretty neat. In the PC study Bible that I'm using, I had exactly the same numbers. There won't be anything here, not yet. The next search, I was looking at Hebrew word numbers, 3394.
You're right.
And 3391.
You're right. That was too close.
And 3842. And 7720.
Saharan.
Right. So when I did this, and you can just, we don't want to spend a lot of time here, but you can just eyeball this really quick, and you can see here, both of these are 26 and 26. Actually, the Englishman's Bible is, or the Englishman's study tool is the same. For Yorak, we have 13 verses and 13 hits. Everything's the same. Strong's in my study Bible isn't going to show it. It shows as 2 moons and 11 months. We're going to come up to that. But in the Englishman, it has the same. So there's no discrepancies here. I hope everyone can see that everything looks pretty good, right? Pretty nice and clean. Okay, let's go on to the words now. Month, months, monthly, and this other word is another that connects to 2320. So when I look those up in the eSword for month, it has 183 verses, 246 hits. Now, this doesn't mean this means that you've got 246 hits in 183 verses. Many verses in Esther will have that word 5 times, up to 5 times. No problem in the Blue Letter Bible, it's the same. In the Strong's, I did not take the time to count it up. I didn't have time to count it up. You guys can go and do that. But anyway, it's probably in the same ballpark. For the word months, we have 41 and 43, 41 and 43, 41 and 43. Everything is really good. We're still on track. And of course, for the word monthly and the word another, which also has 2320 connected to it, you can see that we have a very nice alignment here. So there's no discrepancies there. But this word, Kodesh, with the word number 2320, this is where our question comes in. Otherwise, we basically have no discrepancies. We're still all really happy. Okay, let's take a look at the eSword platform first, for 2320. This is what the screen looks like when I brought it up onto the computer. It says eSword right there. I put in 2320, and right down here, it tells me, which is really nice, and this is the brand new program that I finally downloaded. It says 224 verses found in how many matches?
279.
279. So what I did is I put 279 right there under eSword. And of course, it's going to have a whole lot more information as you scroll down. You'll get all 224 verses. Because there could be some people here tonight that don't know how to use these study programs. Okay, let's look at the Blue Letter Bible. We're checking out 2320 Kodesh matches. You can see it's the Blue Letter Bible. And right down here, it tells you that this word number occurs 276 times in 224 verses. So I put 276 here. So what does this look like, Tim?
3 difference.
There's a discrepancy, right?
Yes.
And we were wondering about these discrepancies. That's why we're doing this. There's 2 discrepancies here. Which one is right? Maybe they're both right. I don't know. Let's look at PC Study Bible. This is the program that I've been using. When I put in 2320, now I'm researching this through the Englishman's, Tim, because that's how my study tool is set up. It tells you it's the Englishman's right here. And right underneath that, it says there are 283 matches in the King James Version for 2320. Now what?
3 discrepancies.
Are we in trouble?
You are.
So this is what we have so far. With eSword, we have 224 verses. Actually, we do with all 3 of them. See that? But eSword says there's 279 hits. The Blue Letter Bible says there's 276. And my program says there's 283. So it seems like there's some discrepancies. And I don't know what the reason is, Tim. We should probably figure out why there is, but I would have to go through and I'd have to count up everything to see if one of these had a math calculation in the program.
I wonder if Vivian would like to do that.
But anyway, I just wanted to show you that it appears that there's some discrepancies, but I want to also show you that maybe it's really not something to worry about. So let's look at 2320 as moon. This is in the eSword. This is 2320 as just moon. There are 9 hits in non-Torah verses. For the word moons, which is plural, we have 11 hits, and it's actually 11 verses in non-Torah books. Okay, let's look at Blue Letter Bible. Oh, let's do the eSword first. So there we have our 20 non-Torah verses. We did this the last time I think we did it, right, Tim?
Yes.
That we decided these were mistranslated as moon. They should have been translated as month. But the percentage, this is the important part right here. 20 out of 279 in the eSword is 7.1% of those hits are mistranslated as moon or moons instead of month. 7.1%. Let's look at the Blue Letter Bible because it has the same. I think I might have missed something here, but let's just keep going. Blue Letter Bible, it had 20 out of 276. So when I did the math, it comes to 7.2%. And the Englishman's, when you do the math, to have 20 out of 283, it's 7.0% in the Englishman's. So these 3 study tools agree that only approximately 7% of the Kodesh listings are translated as moon instead of month. 7%. And they're all within a point, 0.1 or 0.2. So there's some things to remember when we use computer study tools. And I hope that this small exercise can demonstrate that there could be something that looks like a discrepancy, but maybe it isn't really a discrepancy. Maybe it's just the way they did their math. So does this discrepancy affect the overall outcome of the study? And I'm saying in this case, with what we're doing, it didn't affect the overall study. Somebody's using their mouse on the screen. Wasn't me. Be watchful for other types of discrepancies, though, that could affect your final outcome if you're doing a study. So I just want you to kind of watch for that. Okay, we need to also look at italicized words, because italicized words in the King James have been added to the text, and we need to examine all of the words in the text for content and context so that we have accuracy. But we should be thinking about italicized words if they're in the Strong's as well. So that's what we're going to look at right now. We just have a few more slides on this. What about Strong's italicized words? What is printed in the original books? Strong's, in my Strong's book, has this little note. I have taken a picture of it here, and I want to enlarge this piece for you to see what it has to say. The other stuff is, you know, just things you need to know for using the Strong's Concordance. And just remember, Strong's isn't 100% reliable, but if you know how to use it properly, it can be a good study tool. But this is what he says about italics. Italics is at the end of a rendering from the KJV. It denotes an explanation of the variations from the usual form. Okay? In other words, italicized words have been added. And that is something that we need to know. Let's look at the Blue Letter Bible first, because they also have definitions from the Strong's. Right here is the definition. It says the new moon. This is for 2320. We did this the last study. And then it'll say month and monthly second. And it also says the lunar month. You see that? And then down here, it actually has Kodesh. It said this is the actual definitions from Strong's. It says it's from 2318. We already did this. It says the new moon, by implication, a month. Then it says monthly. Then it says new moon again. And there's no italics here. See that, Tim? It doesn't give you any italics to indicate what words might have been added. This is in the Blue Letter Bible. Okay. Let's go to the PC Study Bible. That's the one that I've been using, the program that I've been using for many years. Right here is when I say show the Strong's definition, it comes up, Kodesh, from 2318. And there again, exactly the same definition. There's no italics. Okay, this is in the PC Study Bible, right up there. There's one more to look at that we're examining tonight. This is in eSword. This study tool shows exactly the same as what is printed in Strong's original book. However, there is further study that is still very necessary. So look what he has here. Here's his definition, and he's got the word in the eSword. They have new in italics. You see that, Tim?
Yes.
And over here, they have month in italics. So what I would like to do right now is compare eSword to what is actually in the Strong's book. See if eSword is exactly the same as Strong's. You think we should do that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here's Strong's. Remember that note from Mr. Strong that talks about the italics at the end of a rendering? Denotes an explanation of the variations. Now I've left here 2318, 2319, and 2320. This is right out of his book. I took the picture. Kodesh from 2318. Look what it has here. New in italics and mud in italics. Was that the same as what we saw in the eSword? Yes, it was. Just something. Okay, or a window. Anyway, what we found here is that the word new, I've hidden it because it was added, and I also hid the word, was it month?
New.
Anyway, we have already forgotten.
Yeah.
Should we go back and take a look?
Yes.
Let's go back and take a look. It was months. Okay, this is good for us too because we needed to take a little bit of a more careful look at this. Okay, so new was italicized and so is month. So we've also learned that just because italicized words are removed from the definitions does not necessarily mean that what is left in the definition is still a correct interpretation, right? We did that on the last study, I believe it was. We went and looked at these carefully because we felt that this definition that's left has to still align with Moses and Torah. And we also discovered that Moses never ever uses Kodesh 2320 in Torah to define any new moon as a new festival month, right?
Yes.
You have to agree. Now, because Strong's had new in there, I was just thinking, well, are there any entries for new moon that really belong there in the Strong, in the King James Bible? So I went and I looked up the word new just out of curiosity, and in the Old Testament, there are 89 matches for the word new. This is in my study program. I didn't do it in eSword or Blue Letter Bible. This will be your homework. 36 of those matches are linked to these numbers. One means a feminine of create. One means to be moist. This is for new. One means new timber. One means expulsion of new wine. Another one means new fruit to burst forth. And one is talking about trodden juice, which would be like new juice, right? The other 53 matches are linked, look at this, to the word number 2319. Does that ring a bell? To define. And these were the different words that when I looked up all of these 53 verses, it was defining a new king, a new offering, a new house, a new wife, new gods, new wine or cords or ropes, a new sword or a garment or a court, a new song, a new instrument, a new name, a new gate, new spirit, a new heavens and a new earth. You get the picture?
Yes.
So the word new for 2319, which is Kadash, and look where it's from. It's from 2318, which happens to be the primitive root for 2320 Kodesh. And it has, oh look, it has new in italics there, but it's a fresh new thing. So I'm thinking that this 2319 qualifies as the better selection to work with a moon in a month than any of these over here that were listed. I just did a quick study on that. You can correct me if you want. Okay. So my question is, are there any Hebrew numbers for new moon together? So I'm going to go with this new as 2319 Kadash, and it is from 2318, just like Kodesh is. Okay, they have the same primitive root, meaning a fresh new thing. Don't forget, moon as a noun is your, you know what? I've got these mixed up, Tim. You see a mistake here? This is actually our verb, so everybody correct this. 3391, oh yeah, this has been quite a week to get this put together, so no wonder there's a goof on slide 26. This is actually your verb because it's your lunation cycle. So this moon down here for 3394 is your noun. Everybody make that correct. Okay, so we found out that there needs to be a noun and a verb working together when we're talking about some of these concepts. Now, if the new moon is in charge of the new festival month, then we should find the appropriate Hebrew word numbers linked together in at least 2 to 3 scriptures, right, Tim?
Yes.
If we want to have a Torah truth that designates the new moon as part of this worship statutes. That's what we agreed with this whole calendar study, that there had to be at least 2 to 3 witnesses.
Yes.
And we're feeling now that they should be in Torah, right?
Absolutely.
Not non-Torah books. So this is what I found. When I went searching, and I actually did this search, everyone, with the eSword program. It doesn't work online. It might work on Blue Letter Bible, but I did this search with the eSword. I put in these numbers, 2319 and 3394, to see if I could find those 2 word numbers together in one verse. And there was none. This is your literal moon right here. So, and this is the word new. So new moon, those are the 2 numbers that would have to be together in one verse to actually say a new moon. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, and then I took 2319 as new, and I put it together with 3391, which is that Yorek and Yorok, whichever one it is. It's the lunation cycle. There were 2 verses that came up with these 2 numbers together in the same verse. So there's only 2 to investigate. And I thought you might like to see them. I will show you here. This is in eSword right there. This is what I did. I just put in 2320 and 3394. And like I said, there was nothing. Told me right there, 0 verses found. No verses link. 2320 to 3394 in the same verse that would say new moon as a new literal moon in the sky, right? Or a crescent moon or whatever. Okay, let's look at the other one. This is still with the eSword. I put in 2320 and 3391. This is the Yorok lunation cycle. It says there's 2 verses found. Now it's saying 4 matches because it's picking up the 2 verses and it's picking up those 2 numbers. Okay, so we have in 1 Kings 6:38. Actually, Tim, can you read this for us, and they can follow along and see the 3391 here has a month, and over here a month is 2320. Go ahead, yeah.
And in the 11th year, in the month Bull, which is the 8th month, was the house finished throughout all the parts thereof, and according to all the fashion of it. So was he 7 years in building it.
That's what 1 Kings 6:38 is. When I looked at this verse, I'm thinking in the month, that's your 3391. Now the 3391 is your lunation month, but they've also got month is 2320 Kodesh. But I did not find anything in this verse, Tim, that says that this new month has anything to do with a festival month, indicating that it's beginning a festival month.
Yes, there's nothing that I can see there either.
Mm-hmm. But there is one more. It's 1 Kings 8:2. And it also has the 3391 right here with month, and it has your 2320. So these yellow highlighted parts are your 4 matches. So Tim, why don't you read that one for me?
And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast in the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did we find here? This verse actually says at the feast, 2282. So this is possibly, yeah, but it's possibly a contender for something, right?
Yes.
But we looked at this a little bit, and we could probably do a full study on this. When you actually look at the context around this particular scripture, it is when Solomon is bringing the Ark of the Covenant into the temple, I believe, and there was a feast there. Whether it was a feast of Yahuwah or not, we'd have to do some research on that. But what I've come to the conclusion on for right now, for the moment, is that neither of these 2 verses in 1 Kings has any context for new moons beginning festal months, especially a 2282.
Peg.
Yeah, like that. That kind of a feast in the 7th month. Okay, so this is something that you should know about, because people may bring this verse to you as a controversial verse. But you know what? It's only one. and it's a non-Torah verse. That's something to remember as well. So what's the conclusion of this little study on this bookmark? I'm feeling that study tools can assist us tremendously, but we must be sure to choose correct definitions according to content and context. And we have to know that the conclusion has to align with Moses and the Torah. So I hope that was helpful to you. And now we are ready to start part 7. About everyone wants to know the truth about the moon or the moon or the moon. Now, I did have to change things up a little bit. I was going to do something different this week, but we need to put in this little piece first. It's going to be called tonight, Tampering with Yahuwah's Calendar Keys and Definitions. We always have a question.
Our question, O Chodesh, who tampered with your definition to read moon instead of month?
And that is a good question.
That's the question of this whole Moon over the Moon series.
Exactly. What have we learned so far about Kodesh and Kodash? Well, 2320 Kodesh and 2320 is the primitive root, yes.
Join the meeting.
Oh, someone's joining the meeting. Welcome. We know that we need to have a noun and a verb that work together. And we also found that these two word numbers and word names, Kodesh and Kadash, have nothing to do with new moons according to what?
Laws of Moshe.
Nothing. But my study was, I actually found this through the Englishman's Concordance help. I'm not sure I would have found it as easily the other way. So we have our little graduate birdies back, and they're going to help us with our study. Hey, Mr. Graduate, the last time we finished the teaching on all 20 verses that have bundles of moons and feasts and Sabbaths in non-Torah books.
Yes, I understand from many that they now know these do not support a moon month according to the laws of Moshe. So somebody really has removed very important calendar keys. Today we are going to find out who some of these people were. Let's start with a review.
I wonder who it's going to be. Okay, I need to have some volunteers helping. We had Vivian the last time. Do we have anybody that wants to help us with this one? We're going to do a little review and see what you remember. Do we have a volunteer? They're scared.
I know there's so many people just jumping at the bit.
It has to be Walter.
No, not yet. Walter gets a turn later on. Vivian, do you want to give it a try?
Okay.
I have very few ones.
Oh, just a minute. I've got my Siri on and she wants to answer your questions. Okay, let's give it a try.
Okay, there's going to be 2 of these slides, and so we're going to kind of break it up a little bit. So whoever answers is fine with me, okay? Because this is what this whole study is about. In our Hebrew word number 3394 for Yarath, do you remember what's going to be over here? It's a part of speech. Which part of speech is it going to be?
Well, it's supposed to be a noun.
Yeah, there you go. Oh dear, I showed you the answer.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, Vivian, that's right. Let's go to number 2, Yorak, 3391. This is the lunation cycle. Which part of speech would it be?
Well, that's the verb, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, good, yeah. This is a lot better than last time.
Okay, I don't know. There's something wrong here with the computer. Anyway, Nirvana, what part of speech is that? It had 3 listings.
Well, it said adjective because it's the color of the moon.
All right. I'm not going to touch the computer this time.
Okay.
7720 is 1 listing in the Strongs. It's Saharan. What is it? What part of speech is it?
Well, you said it was a simile, meaning it's the same. Now, like a comparison, sorry, yeah.
You're right, she's right.
Hey, student.
Excellent. No, and the word another is 20, comes with 2320, and that was 7720. Okay, Vivian, this is the biggie. 2320, it had 20 listings for Kadesh. What part of speech? And actually, remember we said it should actually have 2 here using the 2318, so I'll give you a little bit of grace on this one.
Oh, so it is the verb? It's still a verb?
Well, 2320 is actually a noun, but the 2318 is actually your verb. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really have it set up on this slide because of room. Okay, but the verb is the repetition part. Okay, so we had a total of 52 references, and this was our question, right?
Yes. Oh, somebody else is on.
Are there really 2 verbs and 2 nouns for 1 moon? I think I'm going to turn the slide over to the next slide now. All right, do we have another volunteer? Because we're going to look at something different. Now, you just saw the bookmark with all these numbers on it. Okay, we've been going over that bookmark. So I'll give you the first one to give you a clue on how this works. We have the Strongs on the left and Englishman's on the right. For the Strongs, when I put in moon, and I didn't have room here, but when I put in moon or moons, it's the noun, and there was 26 exact matches. They were exactly the same in Englishman's and the Strong's Concordance. Can someone tell me what happened with Yorak 3391? The Strong's in my study program had 2 listings. Do you remember how many there was in Englishman's? Anybody can answer.
11.
There was 11 is part of the answer.
And then 2 more was moon.
And so what would we have all together?
13.
There you go. That's 13 matches. That's right. Okay, 3842 is also another word number for moon or moons, the color, Labana. There was 3 listings. When I put moon or moons into Strong's, I had 3 listings. When I put the word number into Englishman's, how many listings did I come up with? Anybody? Tim?
3.
He says 3. You're right. You're rock. 7720. There was only 1 listing. When I put in moon or moons, only 1 listing came up with 7720, Saharan. How many when I put it into Englishman's? When I put 7720 into Englishman's, how many listings did I find? I have a 1 over here. Let's look and see.
3.
3, that's right. But 2 of them said ornaments or something like tires. They were similes. Okay, everybody should know this one. 2320 in the Strongs, I put in moon or moons. I had 2320 come up 20 times for moon or moons. In my program, how many times did it come up in the Englishman's?
283.
That's right. Now, everybody, you see this little squiggly dash here, this little curvy squiggly dash? I've kind of found that when you see that, that means about. Okay? So it could be 283 in my program, 279 in the eSword, I believe, and 276 in Blue Letter Bible. Okay. So the question this time is, why are there 263 extra listings for 2320, according to the PC Study Bible? So you guys did really good. All right, we have 1 more. This is just a review slide from everything that we did in our last study. Do I have a volunteer that wants to try to just explain this in a couple of sentences? Do you remember what we did with these charts? Anybody? We might have to do this lesson again.
Yeah, we might have to.
What we did is we looked at these 20 verses.
All the kings followed Torah.
Yes, right. Good, Mario. We looked at these 20 new moon verses that were in non-Torah books. And we went through several kings, right? You can see King Saul and David and King Solomon. We have King Hezekiah over here. We looked at several prophets and some leaders like Zerubbabel and Nehemiah and Ezra. Okay? And we looked at all of them. And Mario, do you remember? You already said the answer. Could you just say it again for us, what we found?
All of the kings followed Torah.
Yes, they went and they followed Moses' words for how the calendar started. They followed what Moses had in Torah. So we discovered that basically from Moses to Nehemiah, and this is basically 1,000 years of history. So this chart is a general historical review of 1,000 years of history where calendar was exactly the way that we're finding it and teaching it. Okay, so let's get going now. For 1,000 years, not one of these great men of Yahuwah made one single mistake. Go ahead.
All of them followed Yahuwah's laws as given to Moses because there are no new moon worship statutes in the Torah. Every leader beckoned the people to forsake pagan ways.
Yes, and I'm glad they did.
Right? Yes, and this for 1,000 years is going to become very, very, very clear in the future when we're talking about the word year.
And in our next study, this is also going to come clear. It's really big. Okay. We've already answered part of this question, but there's another one that we're still looking at. Are there really two verbs and two nouns for one moon? And we discovered last time the answer is absolutely no. Neither Kodesh 2320 or Kadash 2318 align with any moon month period. It just is not there. It's not in Torah. So we looked also at some scriptures about Matthew 23:13 and Luke 12, where in Matthew 23:13 it actually talked about when Yahushua was talking to the people and saying that they were removing the keys to the kingdom. And in Luke 12, he was talking about you can discern the sky and whatnot, but you don't know the things that I'm telling you basically about calendar. Let's look at this here too, like who really took away the keys to Yahuwah's covenant calendar. Anyway, I want to read the verse here in Luke 8:7 because it says, "For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light. For whoever has, to him more will be given." And the last part of the verse says that who hasn't, it will be taken away. So far we have investigated the Hebrew lexicon writers and their part in tampering. This was a couple of lessons ago when we saw how Strong's tampered. Remember, we looked at Gesenius, we looked at the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, and there was another one that we looked at, I believe, how they had the Theological Word Book had 2,000 words, remember, that were trying to promote that the 2320 that was actually supposed to say new month was actually saying it is new moon. So this is all going to be revealed, exactly what the truth is. So we were finding that a thorough investigation really has to continue. That there just might be someone else responsible for taking away the keys to Yahuwah's covenant calendar. It wasn't only the Hebrew lexicon writers that tampered with this covenant calendar. And today we're going to investigate the 1611 translators. They are different than the Hebrew lexicon writers. Okay, the translators came first. Most of the Hebrew lexicon writers were later. Strong's was in 1890 when his book was published, almost 300 years later. And the next question will be, what happened? How did the new moon words find their way into 20 non-Torah scriptures through this Kodesh 2320? Just exactly how did that happen? But we want to remember that the 1611 translators really had a big work to do, and their work was completed. It was less than 100 years after Luther. And I do believe they really did their best. And it's highly likely that they were influenced by traditional teachings during their time. We're still very much steeped in Roman teachings, and you know Rome's going to distort the truth. And we also have to remember one thing, that Jewish tradition is very strong as well at this point in time. And that suits Rome just fine. So was the new moon month one of those traditional teachings? And we like to go back to Isaiah 28:10. This is one of our hermeneutic principles. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, and line upon line, here a little and there a little. Isaiah is trying to give us the message that you need to do your study from cover to cover in the scriptures. Now, there are some things that could have happened with the 1611 King James translation to cause such a problem that only 7% of the scriptures would establish the new moon over the new Kodesh month. Two possibilities, and there could be more, but these are the two that I want you to consider tonight. Number one, the translators could have done this ignorantly. They could have made a mistake by following the Jewish traditions of their new moon, right?
Yes.
And number two, the translators could have done this deliberately. They could have deliberately erred, causing allegiance and sacred regard to be given to the moon month in place of Yahuwah's festal month start. So that's our question tonight. The translators could have done it ignorantly, or they could have done it deliberately. And that was the question I had to ask when I was doing the study. Which one was it? Or was it both? It can't be both, can it? No, can't be both. I think it has to be one or the other. Let's take a look. Let's map out. We're just going to do just a quick review so that you can remember what happened here. We started out with our Kodesh teaching here a couple of sessions ago. We went into this definition with a lot of detail, and we said that Kodesh must come into alignment with Moses and Torah as Yahuwah's new Kodesh month, not Yahuwah's new moon month or man's agenda. Because Yahuwah does have a month, a new moon month as well, okay?
Yes.
But 2320 has to come into alignment with his Kodesh month, not your Rek month.
Yes.
So we did that. If you need to see that and have a refresher, go back. We also talked about these lexicon challenges, and here's where we examined the theologians of the Hebrew lexicon study for, we did Strong's, we did the Brown Driver Briggs, that was the other one. We did Gesenius and this theological word book of the Old Testament. Do you remember that the more we looked at, the more words they had telling that the new moon was actually the new month? And the last one had over 2,000 words. So we said, you know what? They've been picking up tradition of the Jewish culture. Next time we did a review, we're doing a review. The next time we had counsel from Moses, all the way from 1450 BC, and that is over 2,500 years after creation, where his Torah calendar instructions were for all the kings, they were for prophets and leaders, and that's including Yahuwah's people today. We went through 1,000 years of history, we went through those 20 verses, and we saw that everything was linking back to Moses. We also did those 20 new moon verses, and we found that they were all non-Torah references. Every single one of them mistranslated Kodesh as moon instead of as month. And we also said not one of those 20 verses aligned with Torah instructions. So those are two different studies that we did that's working up to this one today. So today we're going to look at the 1611 translators and their treatment of 2320 Kodesh in Isaiah 47:13. Did they make a mistake or not? And then we're going to look at 10 different Bible translations besides the King James Version to see if they will give us a clearer context for Isaiah 47:13. We are also tonight going to look at some Bible commentators. We don't normally do this. This comes after you've done your Bible study from cover to cover. But we're going to examine 3 Bible commentators tonight for their insight into the proper meaning and history of this scripture, Isaiah 47:13, and I'm calling this the red flag verse. We will also look at, next time we're going to start looking at ancient history. That's going to be parts 8 to 11, and then we will do another part after that in our study before we get to that great big year study. So let's get busy here. Does it seem strange that only 7% of the key verses for worship statutes would be incorrectly translated as moons, when the proper translated term for 2320 Kodesh can only be months? We're wondering why only 7%. So let's look at Isaiah 47:13, because this verse talks about an interesting phrase, monthly prognosticators. This is a verse that uses qualifiers. We've talked about qualifiers before. I hope you remember that. The context of this verse qualifies the meaning of monthly prognosticators. So let's examine this term. Let's look at the verse first. It says, thou, and this is talking about Babylon, Babylon, you are wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Listen to the context. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. By the way, monthly right there is translated from 2320. It is translated correctly. What is the meaning of monthly prognosticators? Well, in short, it's those that ascertain by seeing, or every month the astrologers were gazing at heavenly bodies, right? This is Babylon. But my question, when I found this verse, I'm going, is King James Version the very best translation? Maybe some other translations say it differently. So I would like some volunteers, at least 3 volunteers for the next 3 slides. We're going to read some of these verses and just see what they have to say. So there's 3 slides. Could I have a volunteer for this one? Tim,
You are wearied with your counsels. Let them stand forth and save you. Those who divide the heavens, who gaze at the stars, who at the new moons make known what shall come upon you. You want me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead and do the whole slide, Mark.
New American Standard says, those who prophesy by the stars, those who predict by the new moons. Number 3 is the International Standard Version, those who conjure the heavens and gaze at the stars, predicting at the new moons.
Okay, Mark, so what do you think about those 3 verses? What do they speak to you?
Talking about them watching the stars and predicting by the moons, and it sounds like Babylon to me. Those who conjure the heavens and gaze at the stars, they're predicting they're predicting, so they don't know. You know, they're waiting.
Okay.
Time.
Well, we have 10 of these to look at, so I need a volunteer for the next slide. I'm going to look at the Jubilee Bible 2000 version. Anybody?
Sure, I'll take it. Let now those that are complete the heavens, those that speculate regarding the stars, those that teach the courses of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
The Darby Bible translation. Let now the interpreters of the heavens, the observers of the stars, who predict according to the new moons.
What do you think, Mario? What does that sound like?
A warning?
Does it sound like they might be doing horoscope stuff?
Yeah, something like a astrology type, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have, I think we have one more that does another 4 different translations here. Anybody?
I can read that.
Okay.
The New World Translation, the lookers at the stars, those giving out knowledge at the new moons. And the Revised Standard Version, who gaze at the stars, who at the new moons predict what shall befall you. And the Common English Bible, let the astrologer stand up and save you, those who gaze at the stars and predict what will happen to you at each new moon.
I think that's Walter speaking. What do you think about those verses?
Well, we don't want to follow those guys.
It sounds like they're predicting. It says, predict what will befall you. It sounds like horoscope stuff to me. Yeah. Walter, could you do our next one as well? I think we have 2 more.
Okay, the Lexham English Bible, you struggle with your many consultations, let them stand now and save you. Those who see the stars divide the celestial sphere, who inform by new moons from those things that are coming upon you. And the New Century Version, those who tell the future by looking at the stars and the new moons. Well, we know that they are from Satan and not from our Heavenly Father.
Yes, exactly. And what I should have done right here is given the King James Version translation of Isaiah 47 again, because I felt that the King James didn't quite give exactly what it's really saying in this verse. This is really talking horoscope stuff. It seems like they kind of glossed it over by using the term monthly prognosticators. It really didn't sound that bad. But oh my, you look at some of these other translations and they actually have chosen the better words for the definitions. And Tim is right now looking up Isaiah 47:13, and he'll read it for us from the King James.
Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee.
Yeah. Let's check out what some Bible commentators have to say about these monthly prognosticators. And remember, I did not look at this until I had figured out what was happening in the scriptures. After I found those other 10 versions that were saying, oh my goodness, horoscope stuff, I thought, I wonder if the commentators are going to say anything about this. So I went snooping, and we're only going to look at 3. I looked at Barnes' notes, Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown, and Keel, and, well, Walter's going to tell us how to say this German name, the Leitz. He'll tell us when we get to it. And actually, let's start with Barnes' notes first. This is what he said about Isaiah 47:13. The thing referred to in the passage before us, and which was practiced in Babylon, was probably that of forecasting future events or telling what would occur by the observation of the positions of the heavenly bodies. And then he has the stargazers, just like that, those who endeavor to tell what will occur by the contemplation of the relative position of the stars. And then he has the monthly prognosticators, just like that give knowledge concerning the months. That is, at the commencement of the months, they give knowledge of what events might be expected to occur during the month, perhaps from the dip of the moon or its riding high or low. The whole passage would have been more literally and better translated by preserving the order of the Hebrew. So, what do you think about that?
Wow.
This is what he says it should have said, okay? Let them stand up now and save thee, who are astrologers, who gaze upon the stars and make known at the new moons what things will come upon thee.
It sounds a lot like staring into a crystal ball and forecasting the future to me.
Yes. Okay.
Wow. Soothsayer.
Yes.
Is there any other comment there? There's two more to look at, but I'll take comments.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
And yes, and I'm going to warn you right up front. We're going to have a slide coming up here pretty soon where I'm going to ask you for your comments on the information that I'm showing you right now. So just keep your wits about you for a little bit. Okay, let's go to Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown. And this is what they say. Let the monthly prognosticators save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Those who at each new moon profess to tell thereby what is about to happen. Maurer joins, not as the English version. This is what he says. Let them that give knowledge concerning save thee from those things that shall come upon thee. But they that at the new moons make known part of the things that shall come upon thee, let them also save thee from them. If they can foretell calamities, they ought also to be able to save from them, because both are the work of God. All right. I asked Walter if he would teach this slide tonight for me.
Okay.
I think it has some nice German in it, so go ahead, Walter.
Okay, that's in German you say Keil in the Lit. To look with pleasure or with interest at anything. Hence, Cooker has rendered it correctly Sterncooker. But I have to tell you here that word Sterncooker, which means stargazers, is misspelled. The first K should be a G. That means Sterncooker.
Okay.
Okay, they, Babylon stargazers, are described still further as those who make known with every new moon things which is used in a partitive sense. Out of the great mass of events, they neglect the most important and prepare a calendar or almanac for distinct every month.
Okay, so what do you think about that, Walter?
Well, these are fortune tellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what they're doing in Babylon. Really, everybody, this is a red flag verse. Okay, we're going to find out why.
And they still do that today.
Oh, yeah.
There's more than Babylon that does. Well, all of Babylon, right? I'm out of Babylon. We're going to do a couple of slides here on a summary. There's quite a few. There are many other Bible translations that translate Isaiah 47:13 according to the ways of Babylon, that of stargazers and those that watch for every new moon, which is a monthly event. Number two, there are several other Bible commentaries that also interpret Isaiah 47:13 according to what was really happening in Babylon. We just read that. And number three, because the translators for the King James Version used the term monthly prognosticators rather than those who predict by the new moons, this is the question: did they actually remove important context from this verse? Hey, Mr. Graduate, I think that's a good question. Why didn't the translators use the word moon for 2320 Kodesh this time like they did every other time in those other 20 verses?
Well, around 712 BC, Yahuwah's festal month and the lunar month were both 30 days in length. Remember, the action definition for the 2320 Kodesh month is still a rebuilding, a renewing, and repetitive occurrence. These words also describe different moon phases observed by pagan Babylon for horoscope purposes. The context has not been altered.
Going to learn more about this coming up in another presentation. Well, I think I could ask something else. I hear there are some secular historical quotes that verify some of these traditional discrepancies. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yes, there are more and more historical quotes coming to the forefront all the time. we should examine a few of these. The changes of Yahuwah's day start and month start are closely linked together. As time moves forward, I believe we will see more and more of these quotes. And yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. We are seeing more and more all the time. People that are doing these studies send us more and more quotes. They're just coming out of the woodwork, and we absolutely welcome every one of them.
When we actually started really looking at the moon around 2014, 2015, there wasn't anything on the internet.
Yes.
Actually, when we started looking at the day start in 2010 and 2011, there wasn't anything for day start on the internet. And
Sure.
now there's lots of it. So there's an awareness out there on calendar. When we started the moon studies, there wasn't really anything. But we were doing our studies from scripture anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But they're coming out of the crooks and crannies now. So we need to just kind of look at a few things. I'm going to give you parts of three quotes that seem to link to Isaiah 47:13. And lots of times in these quotes, we will give you the whole quotes eventually. We need to do that someday. But the day start and the month start are often linked together. This is from What is a Jew on page 108. When the Jews returned to Palestine after their Babylonian exile around 516 BC, they brought back with them the Babylonian astronomy and way of reckoning time. If you don't know who the author is, we should search that out. This is a quote that I received this last week. It's got some really important concepts in here. They brought back with them the Babylonian astronomy and way of reckoning time. That sounds like calendar.
Now, could that word astronomy, could that be changed for astrology based on what we've just read?
Well, Tim, let's let the panel tell us when we give them a chance. Okay. Quote number 2 that I felt linked to Isaiah 47, and I think there's many quotes. This is from the New Catholic Encyclopedia. Especially after the Babylonian exile, a number of significant and enduring changes occurred in the Israelite calendar, showing that the Jews gradually adopted the Babylonian calendar of the time. The 7-day week persisted despite its failure to divide evenly either the month or the year. So what they're saying is they didn't change it to a 10-day week or a 12-day or a 5-day. The 7-day week happened to stay in there, even though they were tampering with other parts of Yahuwah's calendar. And then it goes on to say, the day, however, was counted from evening to evening after the
Babylonian fashion.
There you go. This is from the Catholic Encyclopedia. Rome knows the truth on this history, everyone. So, Mr. Graduate, if the Jews adopted the sunset day from Babylon, do you think that they also adopted Babylon's month start according to the moon?
It certainly sounds logical, doesn't it? We should consider another quote on this. In this next quote, watch to see which type of calendar gave rise to the new viewpoint of the sunset day, which no doubt affected the crescent moon month start.
Now, Tim, I think that the crescent moon month is probably the most popular.
Yes.
Although I know there's some that are using the conjunction, and there's some that are using the Passover, like the full moon of the Passover, and it could be every phase in between pretty soon. I don't know. But we're sort of sticking with the crescent moon right now because that's the most popular.
Yes.
So this is quote number 3. It was a very long quote, and I just took some parts out of it so that wouldn't be too long tonight. But anyway, we can always get these full quotes to you later. This is from the Encyclopedic Dictionary of the Bible. Besides the conception, that was the context here, besides the conception of the 24-hour day beginning at sunrise, there arose another idea of the 24-hour day according to which this daily period began at sunset. Okay, so they had the day beginning. It says sunrise, it should be dawn, but you know, often these quotes don't realize that. Another calendar came up, another conception. It was no doubt the lunar calendar of the Jews which gave rise to this viewpoint. So we've got lunar in here. This lunar calendar that was linked to the moon is also linked to the day start and the sunset. So these two often work together.
Absolutely.
And that's what we found as well before we found any of the quotes. So we'll continue on with our summary for Isaiah 47:13. This one verse was not tampered with at all, even though in this case of Kodesh 23:20, the translators could have actually incorrectly translated it as new moon, just like they did with the other 20 verses. They could have actually done that, but they didn't. They didn't touch this one, okay? And there's something else. A mistranslation using moon would still have been in alignment with the context and the truth of the pagan cultures and their worship practices. Yet this verse was left untouched. And you have to ask the question, why? Why did they leave this one untouched? And that's the point. There are 20 key feast and festival verses in Old Testament non-Torah books that have been manipulated and tampered with to lead one to believe that the feast months really do begin with the new moon.
We must recognize this glaring counterfeit. Non-Torah verses must be in alignment with Torah truth.
I hope we have agreement 100% on that, Tim.
I hope so too.
Do you remember this? It's a little review. We did a comparison between Psalms 81:3 and Numbers 10:10. Numbers 10:10 is a Torah verse. This is around 1450 BC. Tim, do you want to read that for us?
In your solemn days and in the beginnings of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets.
Yes, and then David, in around 1030 BC is the closest I could get. That's quite a ways after, about almost, 500 years? He said, blow up the trumpet. What should we say? It said, in the King James it says in the new moon, right? But that's not what we decided. It has to say, David has to say, blow up the trumpet in the new month because it's 2320. And then he says, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
So you're telling me that this has to align with the Torah also?
Well, I think King David had instructions that he had to instruct by Torah, right? Pray for
Yes.
Moses. So let's do a little comparison here. We did this. This is a review slide, everybody. The book of Numbers dates at least 420 years before Psalms. That's important to remember. Numbers is a Torah book. Psalms is not. King David taught according to Torah. You can find all kinds of scriptures about that. And Psalms 81:3 must come into alignment with Numbers 10:10. A mistranslation of 2320 Kodesh in Psalms 81, which is seen as new moon, it should have been translated as
New month.
right. Remember this question that we're thinking about. Has there been a deliberate attempt by the 1611 translators to save the new moon? Or do you think it was just by accident, ignorantly?
Personally, I do believe it was deliberate.
I think so too. Here's a comment. Because the exiled Jews were indoctrinated with the Babylonian calendar, beginning the day with sunset and the month with the crescent moon, one can see how these two concepts go together. This is the first concept. Once the sun sets, the new day begins. And the second concept that they picked up is once you saw the crescent moon and sighted it, for sure, the new month begins when?
The next day.
On the next day. That's interesting, everybody. They don't begin the new month day the day that they sight the new moon. The next day is when they start it.
Where would they get that pattern?
Maybe somebody can tell us.
Despite what Yahuwah's covenant calendar teaches, This new pagan calendar was eventually declared as a Torah truth.
Mm-hmm. That was around 200 or 300 AD. There are no new moons for Yahuwah's festal months. This error has been accepted as a Torah truth, likely because most people examined only those 20 verses. Those 20 verses that are in non-Torah books. The majority of these verses are set in the context of these bundles. They have Sabbaths, new moons, and it has feast and festival language in it as well, those bundles. I think there's 11 verses that have this bundle, and they are all non-Torah verses. If there was even 2 or 3 of those verses bundled like that in the Torah, we would be okay with it, right?
Yes.
As mentioned before, 20 verses represent only 7% of the 283 references that's in the PC Study Bible that must be searched out. And don't forget, the eSword had 279 and Blue Letter had 276 references, but we're all within the 7%. So these things are certain. The 1611 translators absolutely mistranslated the 20 non-Torah verses using new moons instead of new months. And Isaiah 47:13, for me, is the red flag verse showing that the translators could have actually mistranslated that verse without even altering the context. However, in this case, they left 2320 Kodesh as monthly rather than specifying the new moon context. It seems like they did that on purpose. So now, we would like to have some audience participation from you on what you've seen. We're just about at the end of our presentation. I'd like to know your thoughts on why the translators of 1611 would succumb to such a final decision. Why would they do that?
Well, they obviously didn't have you as a teacher.
I think they felt pressures from the Jewish leaders with adding that, and I think they had the same issues that they have today. Many people, even Christians, I mean, they read the text and they've been so brainwashed with everything Jewish that they even see things in the Jewish way, even though it's not there. I mean, I just read something, I just bought a really nice book about the maps and things about the Bible, and it says the Jewish calendar. And these are Christians that are writing this. And I'm like, what? It's not a Jewish calendar. It's God's calendar. And I think even back then in the 1600s, when they wrote this, well, even when we look at the 1828 Noah Webster's dictionary, it even has references to things Jewish, even though it's not. That's my 2 cents.
That's excellent.
The main reason, you want to know the main reason that
Yes.
changed is because Satan is behind it.
Yes.
The question, why did they remove Yahweh's name, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, and put Lord in there? Why did they remove Yeshua or Yahusha and put Jesus in there? Because it was Satan that did that because he hates God.
Yes, yes.
Are there any other comments?
Certainly, we can go on and also say that it wasn't just Satan that did that. Abba allowed it. And the real question is why did he allow it?
Would
Charlene?
Would he have allowed it for a test for his people? Yes.
Charlene, I didn't understand what Hebrew order meant. That was on one of your slides. Hebrew order. It's about 10 slides back.
Was that with one of the commentators?
I'm not sure. I just remember Hebrew order, and I didn't know what that meant.
Okay, we will look that up, okay? We can save that for later after our PowerPoint is done.
Who translated what we have today? Did the Masoretes translate what we have today?
Almost all the translations that we have today are from the
From the Masoretic text.
From the Masoretic text, right?
So it came from the Masoretes, so that's probably where we need to look at who they were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good reason why our study material or study sources that we have today are so extremely contaminated with that taint towards the moon.
So they should be labeled the Masoretes instead of Masoretes.
That's good. That was good.
Going back to Shirley's question, I think for me, I'm seeing that a lot of things are coming down to tradition and Jewish tradition, and someone else was talking about, and a lot of people, even people who consider themselves to be believers in truth, they're putting too much weight on the Jewish tradition and believing that because the Jews did it, that it must have been right, that maybe they were doing what Yahweh or Yahuwah instructed them to do. And so therefore, maybe Strong's was under that impression that because this was the tradition of the Jews, say, to have the two sightings of the new moon, which some people today are considering the sliver moon, that that must have been right. So therefore, those verses needed to be translated with new moon in them. But I think it comes back to what Yahshua was saying about putting tradition, up as if it is truth when it really isn't.
Yes, I think that we're learning that for myself, I was taught the Jews knew when the Sabbath was. They have to be right. They know when the feasts and festivals, they have to be right because they were the keepers of the holy oracles. But we're discovering that a lot of their traditions were not stemmed from holy oracles.
Well, what I see also is a lot of these people are holding these people up as idols. They're Jews, so they know, just like what you said, and they are the keeper of the Torah. But, as we know, this Torah came out of Babylon, as we see in some of the letters, that even the Hebrew words that they say the name of the Father, they've incorporated as Babylon.
So we're told that they're the keepers of the word. But what was Yahusha's words when he spoke directly to them? And I'm going to read to you, it's from the Hallelujah Scriptures, and it's John 7, verse 19. And this is Yahusha's words directly to them. Did not Moshe give you the Torah? Yet not one of you does the Torah. Why do you seek to kill me? Does it get any clearer than that? He tells us that they were not doing Yahuwah's will. And yet this is the Masoretic text is what has been received from those very people and has been translated down through into the Talmud, and that is where we are taught to get our information because they are the keeper of the word. To me, that's just very, very, very clear what he thought of their faith.
What verse is that, Tim?
John 7, verse 19.
Okay.
And that's what we also read about in Matthew 23, I think it's verse 14, where Yahushua told them that they actually were removing the keys to the kingdom. Maybe Matt, Tim's going to pull that up for you. But also remember our verse today said that there's nothing going to be hidden that will not be revealed. And we certainly believe that Yahuwah will reveal his calendar. Do you have Matthew 23:13? Yeah. I think calendar has to come out because this all has to do with worship statutes. And of course, Rome doesn't want worship statutes to be restored and brought back to the original Torah. And I think Rome has a lot of input into what's happening. So let's hear what this has to say. And I think it's verse 13.
But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you shut up the rain of the Shemayim, or heavens, before men. For you do not go in, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you eat up widows' houses and for a show make long prayers. Because of this you shall receive greater judgment. Now verse 16. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you go about the land and see to win one convert. And when he is won, you make him a son of Gehenna, twofold more than yourselves.
Matthew 13 is a pretty strong.
Oh, man, that's clear.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. They removed some of the important keys. Now, it's not just calendar. There was other things too, but our study is focusing on calendar, right? Is there any other comments before I go to the next slide?
I'm going to read one more verse. Luke 11:52. Woe to you, learned in the Torah, because you took away the key of knowledge. You did not enter in yourselves, and those who were entering in you hindered. That was spoken by Yahushua to the Pharisees of his time.
There's lots of documentation coming out now that we will give eventually. That because Yahushua's ministry was mostly up in Galilee.
Yes.
Galilee was not observing these kinds of moon months and sunset days, etc. Galilee had the True Covenant calendar. Of course, Yahushua was up there. That was where he spent most of his years after he came back from Egypt, and he taught the people up there. We have quotes. We should give those sometime. But there was a direct conflict with calendar when it came to the people of Galilee and also the people that were in Judah. Did you have something to say, Tim?
Behold the leaven of the Pharisees.
Yes.
And the tradition of men.
I find it very interesting that 11 of the disciples of Yahushua were from the Galilee area. That Galilee area is in the land inheritance of Naphtali. It's in that generalized area. I'm going to read to you a verse from Genesis 49, verse 21. And if we read over it, just breeze through it, we won't think anything of it. I'm going to read it. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He gives words of elegance. It just doesn't seem to mean a whole lot, does it? But what if Galilee is in the land inheritance of Naphtali? What if the disciples were keeping dawn to dawn on the correct calendar as the covenant calendar? Why would, at that point, Yahushua would have no reason to correct them on the start of the day. Why? Because they were speaking words of elegance as the blessing was given to Naphtali. And that is why, my personal opinion is that is why they were looked down on and despised upon and hated by the area of Judah. The Galileans were considered a lower class people to be despised. Why? Because they were keeping the covenant calendar of Yahuwah.
And you know what, Tim? We know that those that were living down in Judah despised the Samaritans.
Could you move a little closer to the mic?
We know that those that were living down in Judah despised those up in Galilee, but Samaria was in between the two. They were like the peanut butter in the sandwich, right? And Judah didn't like those in Samaria either. They didn't like the Galileans anymore, but we're not really taught that too much, that they despise the Galileans. So anyway, I'm going to go forward. We just have a few more slides, and we can always do some more comments later. But let's just see what else we have here, because there's two things that I wanted to consider. Number one is that there was a prevalent papal Roman influence less than 100 years from Luther. These are two things that I want to consider about why these translators would have translated this deliberately and not ignorantly, okay? This Roman papal influence was still very strong. This is not even 100 years after Luther. Number two, We have over 1,500 years of Jewish traditional influence with roots in Babylon. Actually, if you go back to basically 500 BC, this is really actually 2,000 years, okay? 2,000 years of Jewish traditional influence with roots right straight out of Babylon, that the translators are working with this information. So these are two things that I thought were something that we should definitely consider. And the question, we always have these. Were these mistranslations done deliberately to remove covenant calendar keys because of these verses in the non-Torah books? And there's something else to consider as well. And this is important. Torah has 86 matches for 2320 Kodesh, and they're all noted as month in the Torah, every last single one of them. Not one Torah verse using 2320 Kodesh was tampered with to read moon rather than month. That's absolutely amazing when you know what these translators were under. And this is what I think. Did Yahuwah hold his hand over Torah to preserve his calendar keys?
Absolutely, I agree.
He didn't allow them to touch the Torah verses.
Yes.
That's amazing. I want you to think about that. Anyway, if the translators would have translated 2320 as new month in those 20 non-Torah verses instead of new moon, the verses that we had under examination, would that have made a difference for understanding the commencement of Yahuwah's festal month today? Like, if they would have done it right, what would we be doing today? And I don't think there's even any question about this. If they would have translated those 20 verses correctly, where they have the bundles of feasts and new months and Sabbaths together.
Charlene?
Yeah. Yes.
Charlene, when you turn your face away from the mic, your voice does not come in clear. Could you look straight at the mic and when you speak so we can hear what you're saying, please?
Okay, sorry about that. We're trying to catch both of us on one laptop, so I'm glad you brought that to our attention. But anyway, the question is, if the translators would have translated the non-Torah verses with new month instead of new moon, especially in those verses that have the bundle of Sabbaths, new months, and festivals, I actually don't think that we would have this calendar discrepancy today. Now we know, right, Mr. Graduate?
Yes, we know a little more of what happened for Yahuwah's covenant calendar key to be lost. However, the lexicon writers and 1611 translators are not the only ones that have tampered with the covenant calendar keys. There's more to this story.
Oh, yes, and we must search for the answer to our original question. Who else may be responsible for taking away the keys to Yahuwah's covenant calendar? We've looked at a couple already. So we're going to have to investigate. Is it Israel? Was Galilee responsible? Was Samaria? Or was Judah? Or was it somebody else? These are still things that we want to search out. So what's next? To find out who else is guilty and what happened to Yahuwah's covenant calendar keys, we are actually going to do this in part 8, the one that you've been waiting for. My people have forsaken me for the moon. And I do hope that we can do it on November 2nd if I'm available. So that's the end of the presentation for today. And if you have any questions, of course, you can send them to the email there or call us.
Yeah.
That's it. If you have comments, you're welcome to
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
You ever heard of the greens interlinear?
Greens interlinear.
Yes, I've heard of it.
I've heard of that.
What do you know of it? My neighbor lady had one of those.
I've never used it. I don't know anything. I couldn't say anything about it. I've heard the name. That's about it.
My other question is, what's the New English the Englishman's is that a lexicon?
Are you talking about the Englishman's Concordance?
Yeah, it's a concordance, huh?
It's basically like a Strong's, only it researches by word number, not by the word. It searches by the Hebrew number.
Where can you find those at? Are they online, or would you suggest somebody get one of them?
I just have mine on the computer. I don't have the book on the shelf.
I bought mine at Amazon.
Okay. Do you like them very well, or are they better, more reliable and correct?
Well, they're still listed by Strong's numbering system, but rather than put a word in and then find the number, you put the number in to find the word, right?
Okay.
I have a difficulty with saying things are more correct or less correct. I think it's just more important to have many different resources that you can compare to and take a conclusion from a whole bunch of references. That's what I like to do.